will you scrub the first bit? Okay, welcome to the 2024 mini conference. Since it's mini, I won't waste time saying anything more except say hello, Andrew. First talk, please. Thank you very much.
Right, good afternoon all. I have a couple of presentations, one on the 27S screen replacement and one on the 82143A feed roller issue. Why a 27S? You obviously wonder. Well, when I bought my 42S in 1988, my friend at school bought a 27S. And I've kind of wanted one though, I don't really care for algebraic. So I saw one on eBay with a faulty screen, so I had to buy it. Now let's see if we get, that's an easier way. Right, here we are. So it listed on eBay, really nice nick, an early life screen crack. So I thought, right, I'll pay 50 quid rather than 80 quid. Well, I wanted a really nice condition one. So I thought, I'll just change over the screen. So 27S is algebraic, it's a Saturn, 88 to 91, so only a 3-year production period and non-programmable. I spent 50 quid, but it's a really nice example.
It's programmable, but you have to do it through the solver.
Yes, yeah. And that's it. So, ultimately, I'll show you how to take them apart, how I changed the screen, where I got a replacement screen, and it could be applicable if you have something like 42S, something you care for, and it's got dust in it, in between the glass and the LCD, and it's not easy. Okay, the usual business, you have to pick the case apart, tweezers, wedged in at the top and the bottom, as you see. We've got these posts.
Can't you peel them off?
Peel them?
Peel them off, the top three ski case.
I lever them off carefully to not bend the metal.
I suppose drill the heads off.
These ones you could, but I want the heads there for reforming afterwards. So peel them off and you get in, and that's the main board. So it looks very interesting.
So there's a 42 main board as well.
Well, you see, so 27S and the 17B, just for coincidence, what's the 17B doing here? Well, 27S is about £85 on eBay, 42S is about 150, £200 on eBay, and the 17B with the same screen is only about 30 quid. So it's a nice donor. So interesting, looking there, it's exactly the same board. Same part number.
The difference is the processor chip, of course. Different firmware it is. Really. The firmware is in the processor.
Yeah, hence the...
Now, an undocumented feature.
Go on.
If you think it's ground one of the pins, and it's actually brought out to a bar on the board, it disables the internal. You can actually map an external EEPROM as your firmware.
That's flooded.
Which means you can turn any of them into a 42.
Exactly. So it's. I was surprised it was actually labelled as the same board. So identical part numbers.
So you can say turn it into a 17?
Oh, you can turn it into a 17.
I'm surprised it didn't put a sticky label on it. I have seen HP boards from the grand era of HP where the X has been the same, but they actually put a label on with different part numbers. They've identified them on the production line.
Yeah, well, these exactly
Well,
the
the
same.
X is the same.
So,
I've also seen the reverse.
So very nice. So well, that's interesting, and the extra ROM on the 17B. Now, even more interesting. Luckily, the LCDs are exactly the same Epson part number. So that was lucky. So my plan was going to work. So it wasn't just a hunch. So there we go. But you have to then take off this whole metal module that holds on the screen. It's on the back of the keyboard, and it's got no end of heat sinks. It's got probably 30 of them. So it's a matter of cutting them off, peeling, doing all that horrible business to eventually get that off as a module. Plan is to swap them over, but first you need to prepare all the heat sinks to make them pointy again, so you've got a fighting chance of melting them back to seal it. So, the comment about the 42S with the dust in, if you're brave enough to do this, you can solve the problem with the dust, clean it out. But am I going to do that with my 42S, my beloved machine? I think the answer is no. At the same time, we also see there's a zebra strip, which is the cause of all the other faults. Not turning on is the keyboard connector. So, but you don't have to take this off to do that. Generally, I find a piece of foam behind there just to push it further, fixes that. So anyway, here we are. Now, have to be very careful. This is a conductive rubber strip, or a rubber strip with conductive segments. So ruthlessly clean, lay it on again if you take it off, clean it again, put it on, see nothing happens, clean it again, put it on, and it eventually works. And this is the keyboard connector, so quite often that fails. So the foam under it, that's all business. And once it's all snapped back in, melting the heat stakes. Have a chance of it actually working. So once that's done with a soldering iron at a very low temperature.
Can I interrupt?
Go on.
Can you just go on and say how do you do those melting? How do you do the prep for that? Because that's the reason why 42 is not properly sealed.
With these heat stakes, I cut them diagonally when I was taking them off, so that I could prise it off. Once the stakes were exposed, ultimately, yeah, I don't have a slide of that. Once they're exposed, I would then, with pliers, form them. So take off the kind of mushroomy, form them straight, and then once they're in a good enough position, clip it in, clips quite nicely, and then hold it down, to squeeze it hard and start forming, start melting the heads.
It has been suggested, I haven't tried this, but one of those 3D printing pens, like things that will handy to work out the filament, can be used to sort of put a blob on top of each of these stakes.
I tried using donor heat stake to melt on with the previous one, and it wasn't that good.
But I've heard a 3D printer pen does work, but I haven't tried it. I don't know.
Yeah.
It might be worth a try sometime.
When I first did these, I would cut the stakes flush.
Yeah.
And then put a soldering iron in and trying to splay it out. But a diagonal one, just cutting, the side of it off, that works better, and there's more material. Quite pleased with this one.
Did you try just hot glue? Did that not work at all?
I've tried hot glue on the main heat stakes, the case ones.
Hot glue is not too flexible, I would have thought.
And it's not, I only want to do this once.
The other comment I'm going to make is the keyboard. The traces on that is sort of several layers of paper. That's it.
That's it.
Yeah. And those traces are actually quite resistive. And have to be. It's actually sorting out pins on the post so it uses the memory address lines.
Oh, right.
If you actually directly bridge a key,
Right.
the whole thing crashes.
Okay.
You want about 100k of resistance, really. About 10k.
Into key bounces.
Somebody experimented making my own keyboard for the 42.
This is another example with the main heat stakes. So they've been prized off, so all the material is there, but it's mushroomy. So using hot air gun for surface mount soldering, gently forming them into rounds again, so you've got all the meat on it. And then if you do it that way, it still clips nicely. Hey presto, it's behaving. So I've ended up with a 27S, which I won't really use, but reminiscing, clips nicely, and it's gone back together very nice indeed. So that's the 27S. So as I say, can take these apart to clean the screen, but I'm not going to do that. Right, let me get my second presentation.
So just on the back on the stakes again before you finish
Yep.
off. So did you try experimenting with cutting like a V slot across one, so that you could then sort of pinch it together and get it out, or would there not be enough left?
Well,
After
I was keen to maintain material because in the past I would cut them flush just to get it off nicely, and then try to reuse the bits of heat stake melting on, which kind of worked, but this was a lot easier. Leaves a lot more meat on it. Then form them straight once it's all apart.
So you just heat them up, make them soft, and then take the blob out, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you heated your pliers up, that might be the
Yeah,
easiest
yeah,
way of
it's
doing
heat pliers, but it's actually a very soft material anyway, so it doesn't really need much heat.
Oh, right.
It's just the initial breaking it off to take the thing off without bending, though the metal can be reformed.
Understood.
But heat stakes are something of a pain.
They are.
So that was one eBay purchase, and recently I've picked up a couple of these. I already had one, but £30, I can't really let them go. They invariably have a feed issue, so they generally work except the feed issue. The feed issue is well documented and washers available all over the blogs, but I just happened to take photographs, partly this in mind. So just run through here. Now this printer is similar to the printer within the 91, so actually that was a recent purchase. That was 80 quid, I couldn't let it go. So had to deal with that, so did them both at much the same time. But so here we are, the thermal printer for the 41, introduced back in the 79, crikey, we are getting old. And a similar mechanism, similar to the 91, 92 and 97. And they all suffer the same problem.
And the 8162, I would presume.
Quite possibly.
Which is the IL printer in the same case. Well, how come I think it's slightly different?
The IR one. Yeah.
The IL printer. The IL printer looks like the 8143. The IR printer is quite different.
Yeah. The IR printer seems quite happy.
Yeah. That's quite a different
Used it in a while.
I had no idea the IR printer was a commercial printer maker. Looking at the back of design.
Really? But so anyway, 35 quid I think it was. Well, or you can spend 250, and it'll always have the feed issue problem. So first of all, screws, one obvious, and the rest hidden under rubber feet. So that's a screwdriver in there. Open it up, and here we have it. 3 screws, and it's a module that comes out with this film ribbon and various connections. So film ribbon should be careful with, because it's if you try pulling it, the connector grabs it more. So a butter knife or something gets
there
you
was
in there.
actually an HP tool to do
There was a HP tool, but my HP rep is probably dead, long gone.
The thing I've been used is a cabinet scraper to be trimmed down.
Yeah.
Steel.
There's-
That works very well.
There's many options, but just taking it out, you get away with it. But if you have to do it multiple times, it's not good.
The other trick, in your left diagram,
Yep.
take out the 2 screws on the print head,
Mm.
take off the clamp plate, slide the print head ceramic out, and leave the tape wire and the print head into the circuit board.
Oh, yeah.
But if you do that, be careful to get back. If you don't get the print head properly seated and you clamp it down, you do this very nasty crack as it cracks in half.
Yeah. Obviously, this is just my way of attacking these things. It's not the definitive correct way, but anyway. So here we are, and these rollers turn into horrible sweets. Nasty, sticky stuff. So this is the 91, and that's the 82143. Obvious differences on the next page. This slotted opto switch and a wheel, whereas this has just got cogs, so that's about belt driven. There's also a different surface, is that a mica-y, plasticky, kind of heat resistant thing, but anyway, so much the same, very similar issue. Same feed rollers. So here we are, that's just hacking off the horrible feed roller. So that feed roller there's a raised section. It's about 4 mil wide, whereas the replacement nitrile rubber O-rings from O-ring store are only about half the width, but plug in quite nicely. But that's the easy bit. It's getting the 2 ends of it to plug into. So disassembly. umpteen E-clips, kind of like circlets, but these ones are more adventurous and they will ping around. So it's best taking out all these shafts to one clean them, first time in a million years, and it just makes getting the thing apart, eventually apart to this kind of state where you can just access the two ends of it.
You know what the tip is for the E-clips, don't you? Andrew?
For the
E-clips?
Go on.
Buy a large box of spares before you start. I'm not joking about that.
I've got 100 spare, so
Yeah, you get them at our level somewhere.
I ordered.
And if you lose a few, you don't mind then.
I've got 3 packs of sizes relatively close and one that actually fits. So peeling these off. So pulling things apart, releasing things just to be able to wiggle this through, then you can access them. Now there's probably a debate about cleaning the surface before applying the new O-ring, or leaving it a bit grubby, and I'm for leaving it a bit grubby as
It'll stick to it.
a fighting chance it will stick to it. So once they're on both ends, it's the reassembly. Now, with the 82143, we have this pulley with the reflective optical sensor. Now, the axle, for want of a better word, has a profile on it, whereas the wheel doesn't. So I've tried Loctite in the past, I've tried wedging things in, but I had a different idea this time. So I got a needle file and filed in a channel. So a better example of that, and with a watch screw, I managed to screw it in quite nicely, and it's a very robust. I think that will be my future answer. That's only made out of aluminium, so pretty easy. It held very nicely. So that's my trick there. So reassembly, everything back in again, and this one prints indeed very nicely. So far better output, I'd say, than the 91, 97, etc. And this one came with a box. So
How was it advertised when you bought it?
they always
Honestly?
advertise as they don't care to mention that they don't work or untested. So and then you can usually see very early if somebody's been in there playing around with things, but usually these have been in someone's drawer. They're probably quite expensive
In their day.
in their day.
How much did you pay for that particular?
This one, £35, and I bought another one, £50-ish. I thought, well, we can't let them go. So, so recent splurge, 2 of those. The 91, that was £80, so that was a very good deal. And the 27S, the 50, that was, you can buy them 80 every day. And the 17Bs, I don't know if the B2 has the same LCD.
I'm almost sure it does.
It probably does,
I'm
but
almost sure it does. But
I was certain for some reason the B did, because of the bezel profile. So that is my presentation. So thank you very much. Am I for time? Ooh, early. I'll close that.